It was 11:43 p.m. The city of Ouagadougou was calm. Most of the citizens were asleep, unaware of the storm that was about to erupt. Inside the presidential residence, President Ibrahim Traoré was sitting at his desk, reviewing late documents. His eyes were a bit tired, but his mind remained alert. He had just signed a proposal for a new school project in the northern provinces when his secure phone rang. Traoré answered instantly. Yes, this is the president. There was silence on the other end. Then came a trembling voice, clearly scared but determined to speak. Please, Mr. President, I know this line is dangerous, but I had no choice. Who are you? Asked Traoré, leaning forward. I can't say my name, but I beg you, listen. There are more than 200 children, yes, children trapped in a secret illegal gold mine somewhere in the eastern region near Compiègne. The voice broke. They're starving, working with their bare hands, treated like animals. Some are only 5 years old. President Traoré's expression hardened. Where exactly? He asked quickly. The voice continued. Follow the old forest road past the abandoned timber factory. There's a path that leads into the forest. No one goes there anymore. Please, you are the only one who can stop this. The line cut, the call ended. For a moment, the president remained still. Then he stood up quickly and pressed a button on his desk. Call General ABA, call Commander Idris. We're leaving tonight, he ordered. His voice was filled with anger, not just as a leader, but as a father. 20 minutes later, the presidential convoy was ready. Black jeeps, armed security trucks, and 2 ambulances were waiting. Traoré emerged, dressed in military uniform, his eyes sharp and serious. Where are we going, sir? Asked General Abbas. Traoré explained briefly. An anonymous caller just informed me that 200 children are being held in a hidden gold mine. We must find them. Commander Idris frowned. If that's true, then someone is getting rich from their suffering. Yes, said Traoré, and tonight, it ends. They moved quickly along the silent roads, headlights off, guided only by moonlight and a strong sense of determination. As they left the city, the air changed. The trees became denser. The roads turned dusty and narrow. They passed through remote villages, most people asleep in standing huts. At 2:10 a.m. they reached the old timber factory mentioned by the caller. It had been abandoned for a long time, its roofs collapsing. Behind it, a hidden path led into the dense bush. This must be it, said Traoré. He got out of his jeep and began to walk. His men followed silently. With only torches to guide them, the group crossed the thick forest. The sounds of crickets and frogs filled the air. After nearly an hour of walking, they began to hear faint metallic sounds clinking. Scraping, Traoré raised a hand. Everyone stay low. They advanced cautiously, crawling, and then they saw it. At the bottom of a natural hollow surrounded by rocky hills was an illegal open-pit mining site. The area was poorly lit with scattered floodlights powered by small generators. Armed men strolled lazily, unaware of the danger approaching. But what struck the president most wasn't the guards, it was the children. Some were waist-deep in muddy pits, digging with small rusty tools. Others carried heavy bags of sand, their faces covered in dust. None wore shoes. Many wore torn clothes. Their bellies were swollen from hunger, and their eyes were hollow. A boy collapsed while carrying a bucket of dirty water. No one helped him. One of the guards shouted and kicked him to make him get up, but the boy couldn't move. Traoré felt his chest tighten. He clenched his fist. Commander, he said softly, go in, no noise, no mercy. Within seconds, the president's men deployed. Like shadows, they surrounded the mine. At exactly 3:42 a.m., Commander Idris gave the signal, go. A loud noise echoed through the night as smoke grenades exploded. The guards panicked and ran, only to find themselves surrounded. Gunshots were fired into the air. In 3 minutes, the entire area was secured. All the armed men had been arrested. The children, frightened and confused, dropped their tools and huddled together. Many thought it was another group of dangerous men. Don't hurt us, cried a little girl. But then Traoré slowly entered the clearing. He gently raised his voice. My name is Ibrahim Traoré. I am your president, and today I've come to take you home. The children froze. Some blinked, unsure if it was a dream. Others began to cry. A boy asked, are you really the president? Traoré nodded. Yes, and you are free now. A boy who looked about 7 fell to his knees and began to cry. They told us we would die here, that no one cared about us. Traoré walked over to him and knelt down. They lied. I care about you and you will not die. You will live. You will grow. More children began to collapse. Some fainted from exhaustion. The president immediately called for the medical team. Start feeding them slowly, he ordered. Put the weakest in the ambulances. Warm food, water, and blankets were distributed. The doctors began treating wounds, checking fevers, and giving rehydration drinks. Some children had infections. Others had untreated injuries for weeks. A girl's hand was bleeding. A boy's back was covered with whip marks. A little girl held Traoré's hand tightly and whispered, please, don't leave us here. I won't, he said. I promise. At dawn, the sun rose over the illegal mine, but instead of shining on gold, it now shone on hope. Traoré looked around him. His voice was heavy with emotion. These children are the soul of our country. Look at what greed has done to them. He turned to his men. We will not rest until we find every evil person behind this. Let us work together. Let us fight for justice. The soldiers saluted. Yes, Mr. President. By morning, all the children had been moved into the convoy. The mine was sealed. Evidence was collected. Drones flew overhead, taking pictures of the entire operation. As they drove away, many children slept for the first time in peace. Others looked at Traoré as if he were a miracle. And in many ways he was, because that night, a president didn't wait for reports or investigations. He heard his people's cry and came down himself. And the mission had only just begun. It had been a week since the heroic rescue of more than 200 children from the illegal gold mine. President Ibrahim Traoré had personally led the operation, saved the children, and moved them to a safe, well-guarded temporary shelter in Ouagadougou. Doctors were treating the weakest. Counselors were speaking to the traumatized. Clean clothes, hot meals, and proper beds were provided. The children had even begun to smile again. But unknown to the president, danger still lurked in the shadows. The criminals behind the illegal gold operation had not yet been captured. They were rich and powerful men with deep connections, and they were angry. The rescue mission had destroyed their operation and exposed their secrets. They had lost money, slaves, and most of their guards had been arrested. But now, they wanted revenge not through violence, but through lies. 2 days later, unknown to the presidential guards, some of the bad men disguised themselves as reporters from an international media station. They arrived at the relief center in 2 white vans with the logo of a fake humanitarian group. They brought candies, toys, and cameras. The shelter guards were supposed to turn them away, but some had already been bribed. One guard, responsible for security at the east gate, took the money quietly and whispered, "You have 30 minutes. Be quick." Inside the shelter, the men met some of the children. They spoke softly, kindly, pretending to be helpers. "We're here to protect you," they said. "But the truth is, you're still in danger." The children looked confused. A boy asked, "What do you mean?" The man replied, "That man who rescued you, he's not your president. He's the boss of another gold mine. He used soldiers to take you from one mine to another. This place is not safe." The children were silent. "But he told us his name," said a girl. "He said he is President Ibrahim Traoré." The fake reporter shook his head. "He lied. The real president would be too busy to come into the bush himself. You're just being used." Then they asked the children to speak in front of the camera, to say how you're still being forced to work. Say that the man who took you is still using you. The children hesitated, but the fake journalist promised, "If you do this, the world will see your pain. They will come to take you to a better place, maybe even to Europe. Don't you want to be free?" Out of fear and confusion, the children agreed. One by one, they cried in front of the camera. "The man who said he rescued us is using us," sobbed a boy. "He is not our president. He is a bad man. Please help us." Another girl said, "He brought us here to work again. They said we were safe, but we are not. The world must save us." The fake journalists packed their cameras and left quickly. Within a few hours, the video was uploaded to several fake news websites and social media pages. The caption read, "President of Burkina Faso exposed. Children claim he is using them for illegal gold mining." Within 24 hours, the video had gone viral. International media picked it up. Twitter and Facebook were flooded with angry comments. "I knew it. This man is no different from the others. How can a president lie to children? This is wrong. He's stealing our gold to make his family rich." People talked. Some believed the story. Others didn't. Inside the presidential palace, President Traoré sat silently, watching the video. His fists were clenched, and his face was filled with pain and confusion. "What is this?" he asked his security advisor, who allowed a camera crew inside the shelter. The advisor looked down. "We're still investigating, sir. Some guards may have been bribed." The president's voice shook with anger. "You mean to tell me someone entered a government facility, lied to rescued children, filmed them, and posted it to the whole world and no one stopped it?" The room was silent. President Traoré stood up. "This is worse than any bullet. It's a bullet made of lies. These people have brainwashed my children." He looked at the screen again. "These are the same children I knelt before. I held their hands, I fed them. And now they think I'm the enemy." He turned to his team. "No, this cannot continue. We must act quickly. We must act now before the whole world turns against us." That night he called a national emergency meeting. All senior security officials, intelligence chiefs, and child protection officers were summoned. "They want to destroy my name. They want to destroy the hope of this country. But we will not let them win," he said. He then gave strict orders to investigate the fake journalists, find the corrupt guards, strengthen security around the children, and most importantly, trace the source of the video. Meanwhile, in the city, the people were divided. Some marched in the streets, demanding answers. Others gathered in support of Traoré, saying they believed in him. But the damage was spreading fast. International news outlets began requesting interviews. Foreign organizations started asking questions. The country was now under a cloud of confusion. Who was telling the truth? Back at the rescue center, President Traoré decided to visit the children again, but this time, secretly. He arrived without cameras, without guards, without protocol, just him and a trusted nurse. When the children saw him, they froze. Some were afraid, some stepped back. A girl whispered, "You came back." Traoré slowly looked around. "Yes, I came because I heard you were in pain again, but I'm not angry, I just want the truth." He knelt before them again. "Do you remember the night I found you? The night you were cold, hungry and scared?" The children nodded. "Do you remember I told you that you are the future of this nation?" They nodded again. "So please," he said gently, "if someone came and told you lies about me, I want you to tell me. I can handle it. Just tell me the truth." A small boy stepped forward. A man said, "You are not the president." He said, "When he moved us from one gold mine to another." Traoré closed his eyes and took a deep breath. "And did you believe him?" he asked. The boy lowered his eyes. "We didn't know what to believe. They said if we said it on camera, the world would come save us." Another girl added, "They gave us candy and promised we'd be free forever." Traoré stood up. "My children, listen to me. I'm your president. I came that night because I love this nation, and I love you. You are not tools. You are not slaves. You are my responsibility. And no matter what the world says, I will protect you." The children began to cry again, but this time, from guilt and confusion. One of the older boys approached him. "We're sorry. We didn't know. We thought we were doing the right thing." Traoré placed his hand on the boy's shoulder. "I forgive you. But now, we must all work together to correct the lies." That night, a plan was made. A truth campaign would begin. Real journalists would be invited under proper security. The true story would be told by the president, by the children, and by those who had witnessed everything. But time was running out. The enemies were still out there watching, waiting, plotting, and President Traoré knew the next move had to be bold. It had to be fast, and it had to be strong. 3 days had passed since the false video had spread around the world. People were still divided. Some called for international investigations. Others sent threats to the government of Burkina Faso. But while confusion and doubt filled the air, President Ibrahim Traoré remained focused. He knew that if he didn't act fast, people's trust, both inside and outside the country, would be completely destroyed. The children were still being cared for in the secure center, but now they were surrounded by new layers of protection. Trusted soldiers had replaced the corrupt guards. Every visitor was carefully screened. No one could speak to the children without permission. Inside the palace, President Traoré met again with his inner circle. His eyes were tired, but his voice was firm. "We cannot sit and watch while our name is dragged through the mud. We must tell our side of the story, and we must do it now." General Abakessa said, "Sir, the people need to hear the children again, but this time, the truth must be protected." The president nodded. "We will organize a press conference, but not like the usual kind. It must be raw, unedited. The children will speak freely, in their own words. Let the world hear what really happened that night." A media team was assembled this time, made up of trusted local and international journalists with solid reputations. They were properly vetted and invited under full presidential supervision. The day of the press event arrived. Cameras were set up inside a clean, simple room at the rescue center. There were no decorations, no fancy lights, just chairs, microphones, and the truth. The children, now properly dressed, looked healthier than before. Some still had scars, but there was light in their eyes. President Traoré stood silently at the back, watching. The first child to speak was Jonathan, 10 years old. He walked slowly to the microphone, looked at the cameras, and began. "The night the soldiers came, I thought it was the end. I thought they came to beat us like the others. But then this man," he pointed to Traoré, "came and said, 'You are free now.' I didn't believe it at first, but when they gave us food, treated our wounds, and told us we would never work in the pit again, I knew it was real." He paused. "When men came last week with cameras, they lied. To us, they said the man who rescued us was bad. We didn't know what to believe. We were scared. I want to say I'm sorry, and I want the world to know that this man is our president. He saved us." One by one, the children came forward. Some cried as they spoke. Others held each other's hands for courage. They spoke about the pain in the mines, the beatings, the hunger. They explained how they were tricked into telling lies. They told the world how their lives changed after the rescue. The room was silent. The cameras kept rolling. Finally, President Traoré stepped forward. The room went completely still. He looked at the children, then at the reporters. "I didn't come here to defend myself," he began. "I came to defend the truth," he continued. "These children were slaves hidden in the bush, treated like animals, robbed of their childhood. I led the rescue because I believe no child should be buried in dust and darkness while we live in comfort." He looked around the room. "I don't need to steal gold. I don't need to use children. My wealth is not in gold. It is in the future of this nation. And they are that future," he said, pointing to the children behind him. He raised his voice. "Those who created fake news, those who bribed guards and lied to the world, know this: we are coming for you not with hate, but with justice." The entire room stood up in applause. The children ran to him, clinging to him tightly. The video was streamed live immediately. In less than 2 hours, it reached millions. Around the world, people who had doubted began to believe again. Major human rights groups issued statements supporting the president. International leaders called to congratulate him. The lies had begun to crack, but President Traoré was not done. The next day, he launched what he called Operation Golden Truth, a powerful investigation into all illegal mining activities. In the country, undercover agents were deployed. Lists of suspicious businessmen were compiled. Border checkpoints were activated. Corrupt guards were arrested one by one. In a town near the old mining site, a hidden house was raided. Inside, the documents revealed a shocking truth: lists of children purchased, payments made, and proof of bribes. One man, a former government contractor, was caught trying to flee the country. He confessed everything. "I was just following orders," he said. "They paid me to stay silent." The president ordered that all property linked to the criminals be seized. Bank accounts were frozen. Every account used in the child trafficking network was shut down. But the fight wasn't just physical, it was a war of truth. The president launched a national school tour. He would go from school to school, speaking to students about what had happened, teaching them how to protect one another and warning them never to trust strangers offering fake jobs. In one school, a student stood up and asked, "Mr. President, why didn't they believe you at first?" The president smiled sadly, because the truth is often slow, but it is always stronger in the end. As the days passed, people began to rally behind him again. The same voices that had once shouted in anger were now applauding with admiration. A woman at the market told a journalist, "We almost lost faith, but this man didn't run. He stood strong for his children. That's a real leader." Back at the shelter, the children received something new: school uniforms. The president announced a scholarship for each of them. "You will not just survive," he told them, "you will succeed." Plans were also drawn up to build a special school called House of Light, just for rescued children, where they would be trained, educated, and protected. But President Traoré knew the battle wasn't over. Evil always finds new ways to hide, and the men behind the mines still had influence. He called another meeting. "We've exposed their lies. We've healed the children. Now it's time to end this." His next step, a national broadcast to name the people behind the syndicate. But before he could announce it, he received a letter. No name, no signature, just one sentence: "If you speak again, the next child to disappear will be on your head." The room fell silent. President Traoré held the letter, looked at his team and said, "They're trying. I will not back down." And with that, the fire inside him burned even brighter. 2 days after President Ibrahim Traoré received the threat, the atmosphere in the palace grew tense. Security was doubled around the rescue shelter, the schools, and every child under the president's protection. His top advisors begged him to stay quiet for a while. "Sir, let's just wait. Let things calm down," one of them said. But President Traoré looked them in the eyes and replied firmly, "No. If I stay silent, he wins. And I refuse to be silent while children are still in danger." He held the letter in his hand. "Read the words again. If you speak again, the next child to disappear will be on your head." He closed his eyes for a second and whispered, "Allah is watching you." What the evil men didn't know was that one of their own was growing tired. A man named Roland, once a trusted partner in their wicked gold business, had started to feel guilty. He had seen the tears of the children. He had seen how Traoré had saved them, and he had a little daughter of his own. Every time he looked at her, he remembered the pain in those children's eyes. That night, Roland made a decision. He quietly left his house and slipped out of the city. He arrived at a secret military base and asked to speak with the president's special team. "I have something to say," he told the guard, "but you must protect me. My life is in danger." Within an hour, he was brought into a small room. Commander Idris entered and stared at him. "Who are you?" "My name is Roland. I worked with the man who sent that threat." The room froze. Roland continued, "I know everything. His name, his face, where he lives, and where he hides his documents." The next morning, President Traoré was informed. He ordered the confession to be recorded. Then, with a heavy heart, he listened to the shocking truth. The mastermind behind the fake news, the illegal mine, and the death threat was a man named Martin Damba, a wealthy businessman with companies across Africa. He had made his fortune through dirty gold, child labor, and lies. And now, he was trying to destroy the only man standing in his way. "Where is he now?" the president asked. Roland replied, "He's hiding in a private property near the border. He has armed men with him, but if you move fast, you'll catch him." Without wasting a moment, President Traoré ordered a special operation. "Move now. No noise, no mercy." That night, a team of soldiers stormed Martin's hideout. It was quick, it was clean. He was caught trying to burn documents. When he saw the soldiers, he laughed. "So, the little president sent you." They said nothing. They cuffed him and took him straight to the capital. The next morning, the entire country watched as Martin Damba was led in chains to court. Cameras flashed. Reporters shouted questions. The children at the shelter saw the news and cheered. "That's the man who lied to us," said a young girl. The trial was swift. The evidence was solid. Documents, bank statements, video messages, and Roland's full confession were all presented. Martin was found guilty of child trafficking, illegal mining, spreading false news, threatening the life of a president, and gross human rights abuses. The judge looked at him and said, "You destroyed lives for money. You used lies to cover your wickedness. But justice has caught up with you." Martin was sentenced to life in prison with no chance of parole. When the gavel fell, people across the country cheered. Crowds danced in the streets. Social media was filled with messages like, "Justice has won. Thank you, President Traoré, for staying strong. The children are safe. The truth is restored." Later that night, President Traoré addressed the nation in a powerful speech. "My fellow citizens, we have seen evil. We have felt fear, but we stood together, and today, justice spoke. Let this be a message to all who harm children, lie to the world, and abuse power. Your days are numbered." He paused. "These children are not tools. They are not workers. They are not slaves. They are the heart of our nation. And as long as I live, I will protect them." The camera turned to the children watching live. Some cried, others smiled. The next day, school began at the new House of Light, the special school for rescued children. President Traoré visited, holding the hand of the youngest boy who had fainted in the mine. "Do you remember what I told you that night?" the president asked. The boy smiled. "You said I would live," Traoré smiled back. "Yes, and now you will learn, you will grow, and one day you will lead." Dear viewers, if you liked this video, don't forget to hit the subscribe button, like, share with your friends, and turn on the notification bell to be the first to know when we upload a new video. Thank you for watching.